Welcome back to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where we love to educate and inspire the community with topics around living healthier, feeling more balanced and living a life we love. And today we have Dr. Zara Chelik back with us, our integrative health and wellness expert. And the topic today is body dysmorphia. So welcome, Zara.
Thank you.
What is dysmorphia?
Well, dysmorphia comes from the word morphia, which means form. So usually that can occur in individuals where they are comparing themselves to somebody else. Usually they are infatuated with someone. When it comes to body dysmorphia, they're comparing their body parts to someone else. Or it could be also a comparison of intellectual capacity. They could be comparing themselves to say, oh, they're smarter than me. That's a form of dysmorphia. Or they're richer than me, or they're wealthier than me, or they've got better family than me. So they're all dysmorphia, but today let's focus on and talk about body dysmorphia. And in that, usually people comparing their body parts to someone else. I recently had a lady that I was actually talking to, and she went through a procedure, a cosmetic procedure, because she thought that the person that her boyfriend was actually following and watching on social media was more attractive than her. So she was looking to see what her boyfriend was actually, looking at in that individual, which was on social media, by the way, and in overseas. So she then thought, okay, well, she compared then her to herself. That was on social media. And she then took the step and went and did a cosmetic procedure because she was comparing her body part to this individual on social media. So I asked the question to her. I said, where have you perceived yourself having that form? She's very intelligent. And then she looked into it because I made her aware. She wasn't able to see that not only she also perceived herself attractive in the same form as the model was on social media, but also she had it in different forms, which was her intelligence, which was her career, which were her business and her education. And the minute she saw that, and she had that reflected awareness, because I made her aware by questioning her, she was able to accept and love her body for who she was, rather than comparing herself to some other person and try to become her, which she wasn't going to become her, right? She's an individual.
Yeah, if I may. And the other thing I just clicked with me is, of course, online you see these people and they're all, it's all, you can't tell exactly what they look like. Let's put it, what is it, Photoshop or whatever.
That too, yes.
It's being done all the time.
Exactly, and especially with our teenagers, right? They're sort of going through a stage in their life trying to work out who they are, and also they're comparing their body particularly to other people, and they want to become like them. I just want to tell them, embrace and love who you are and have reflective awareness about where do you display that form. And if it is the body, there's also a side of you, you're not just like disliking your body completely, you're not disowning it. I'm sure there are parts that you're also owning. So go to the parts that you're owning where you feel confident and comfortable and embrace that. And that could give you that confidence. So then you're not comparing yourself to others. And with, again, social media, like you said, it's not always the truth and the true reflection of things. And I want people to be aware of that as well, because that's huge. And not only in teenagers, I also have, a lot of women, mature women, even the language that they use about their body. I hate that about my body. The minute they do it, I pick up on that. It's like, where have you actually loved that part of you? So that's quite significant. And then immediately they go to their mind, the subconscious, and get into balancing the mind within themselves. So then they create the equity between themselves and the other person that they're comparing it to. So usually it's the comparison. They're trying to be like somebody. It's the comparison of things where the individual then starts having dysmorphia. Because I'm not fit enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not attractive enough, or my size isn't just like her or him. So that's where it all comes in. But once we create the that equity between the individual outside of us and ourselves, and the balance within our mind, that's where we actually overcome dysmorphia.
And does that then also, with the body dysmorphia, does that lead into things like anorexia and
It can, absolutely. So that's when, having that conflict within. That's why I said balancing the mind. So when there's that conflict, they will want to be like, oh, she's skinny, I'll just won't eat, or I will just, or bulimia is another one. They eat, they throw up, they always have that, up and down in the weight. They're always constantly comparing themselves to somebody else. And of course, yes, it can lead to anorexia and bulimia, for sure.
And so how does it, you've sort of said a bit about how it plays out, I suppose, but how does it then, how do you actually work with people with that to help them to overcome it or to help to feel better about it?
Yeah, great question. So I will encourage people, stop the minute they see they've infatuated with somebody and they've got this fantasy going, to stop and say, well, what is it exactly I'm admiring in that person? And where have I that displayed in me? Where do I have it also in my own form? In my intelligence, apart from the the looks, or even the looks, they may be comparing their the fitness of the arm, but see where else you are fit. They may be comparing the stomach area to somebody else. Well, go to form and find in other form. What part of your body do you love and own? So find the form that you love and the form that you're confident and comfortable with. So you dissolve the dysmorphia. For not everybody loves every single body part, but there are things that we really like and we just accentuate that and we bring that forward and we look at that and feel comfortable. And there's other parts where we may not feel very comfortable, but then there's that whole balance even in the body, and I want people to be aware of that. Even with our body parts, there's that balance. And once we become aware, say, hey, yes, I may not like my legs very much, but I love maybe my face or my hair or my eye, just giving an example. So I like people to find their own form and see what they're admiring in other persons actually within them once they find it.
And Zara, what advice would you give our viewers as a number one, a first thing?
Sure. So be aware of the language that you're using. Are you self-critical? That's a common one, right? And then when that creates the equity in the mind. So you are actually balancing your own mind through the thought process and the language that you have, and also contributing to the biochemistry of the mind. The other thing is when you catch yourself being infatuated or admiring someone so much, stop immediately and ask yourself the question, what is it exactly I'm admiring in them? And find it in your own form. Where have I admired myself? And find your form. And that will help you to create equity between you and the individual that you're admiring or infatuated with.
Great. Thank you, Zara.
My pleasure.
And for more information on Dr. Zara Celik and body dysmorphia, then please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And now we'll go to break. Welcome back, and we have George Gentilis, our somatic psychotherapist, and today he's talking about healing trauma. What is trauma, George?
Yeah, big topic. Trauma is basically an event that happens in your life where you felt like you, even for a second, perceived, even if it wasn't real, that you could have died. If there's one split second, you think, I could die here, that's the shock. That's the trauma. It's just entered your body. Well, your body, your whole nervous system, your whole physical body, organs, everything, you felt like you could actually die for 1 second. And that could happen with a physical trauma. Car accidents are a typical one. When you see a car coming at you, you brace. For 1 split second, your brain thinks, I could die here. And the car hits, you don't die. And then you're left with this shock in the body that sometimes comes out naturally, sometimes doesn't. And if it doesn't, if it stays in your body, it leads to what we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, where months later you're still rehashing the event. It's like it happened yesterday, and your body can't release it. You can't relax, or you feel heavy, or you start to feel anxious or depressed for no reason, and that's a trauma. That's a physical trauma, so we get a high impact in the body. Then you've got developmental trauma, which is normally the childhood stuff, where you got neglected or abandoned as a child, or abused physically. Sexual abuse is a big one, sadly, but we've got great methods now for healing a lot of that, that's the exciting part, rather than just taking a pill, like I mentioned last time. And sometimes trauma can be something gradual that happens in childhood, where a certain parent puts you down constantly, and it doesn't look like anything much, but 20 years later you're like, oh, weighed down by all this negative thinking, and it's an emotional trauma. That's a developmental emotional abuse, basically, especially if that parent was alcoholic or they had a mental illness, and you had to even support them. A lot of times as a child you have to grow up real quick to support them because they can't even look after you. That's very traumatic, and that can lead to a lot of issues. But it gets stored in your body, and that's the fantastic thing that we've discovered in the last 15, 20 years. It's not just a thinking thing. You can go and talk to someone, talk to a counsellor. That's the best thing to do after a particular event. If something has just happened to you, say a car accident, and you're shaken up by it, or you've had an operation that's shook you up, or because surgery is cutting the person's open, when you're getting cut open, the body thinks it's going to die, because there's a knife coming at it. So that's normal trauma. But if months go by and you're still weighed down by it, and you've all of a sudden all these different things start to happen in your life, reactions, you start getting sick easier, you're not sleeping properly. Normally we can trace that back to a particular event, and you go back to when you didn't have those issues. Normally, almost always, there'll be some major event that happened at that time. Could be a major divorce, a major breakup. That can be traumatic. When your partner you've loved all of a sudden turns on you, very traumatic.
Would an example be like somebody has something physical, actual feeling, or a body motion, or a leg having problems? Or would that be signs of?
Yes.
Would that be part?
Yes, definitely. Trauma? Yeah. Especially if you start getting muscle tensions. Neck is a common one. Legs, psoas muscle, that fight-flight response that we talk about, that lower brain in your body, the sensory motor brain, that needs to release that fight-flight response. So if you think you're in danger, even just for a split second, and you perceive, I might die here, your body wants to save itself. And how do you save yourself? You either run from the event or you fight. And your body's going to want to do one or two of those, or both. If you don't let it happen at the time, because we've got a great intellect, we can block it off. When people feel a trauma, they'll hold their breath, tense up their muscles, and that keeps it in. If you watch an animal in the wild, they won't keep it in. They'll go away and tremble and shake, and it'll come out. But we don't do that as human beings. We're civilized, and it's great that we've got this intellect, which the animal kingdom doesn't have. But the negative side of that intellect is that we can lock down this fight-flight response. So really what you want to do is allow your body to move and let out that fight-flight response. And it comes out as trembling, shaking, twitches, jolts, which is why it's very important to go to the gym. You've got to go. That's the fight response when you do resistance training or boxing or lifting dumbbells. You need that exercise where your body can feel like it's pushing, and then your nervous system feels like, now I'm safe. I can push away, and your body gets a chance to save itself, basically. Your body hasn't saved itself. You may have intellectually, you may have rationalised, the event happened in the past, and you'll have friends around you telling you get over it, and you think, I can't get it, I'm trying to get over it, but you've got all this weight in your body, and what it is an uncompleted fight-flight response. So going to the gym is critical. Everyone should be going to the gym and doing something physical. Walking helps, little short bursts of runs. Interval training is great. Even for 30 seconds on a stationary bike, go flat out, and your nervous system can release that flight response, and then it relaxes, and then you sleep like a baby, sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, very important.
Right.
Very important.
And what would it be a bit of advice for our viewers about if they did observe trauma or feel it for themselves?
Yes, if you've had a trauma, or even watching a movie on TV, a horror movie, and it traumatised you, you've got to come back to your body, because not only is that fight-flight response blocked off, but people dissociate. So people leave their body and they feel like they're living up here or living to the side of the body if it's a real high-impact problem, high-impact accident, or if you had a lot of bullying at school. You really want to start to come back into your body again. And a good way of that is just to pat your body, to feel it, breathe under your hand, and go out around your whole body, and just start to get a sense of, oh, I'm back in my body. And as you come back into it, you'll get little jolts, little twitches, little shakes. That's good. Right? That's not bad. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. That's really good, because your nervous system's finally, that lower brain is finally getting to, finally relax, shake, 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 relax, shake, 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 relax, and just recover. Yeah, you get peace of mind comes back, and the weight lifts, because your nervous system isn't trying to run or fight. Very important.
Oh, well, that's wonderful, George. Thank you for sharing, and you'll be back with us another time, next time, I believe, and you'll be talking about how trauma shows up as anxiety.
How anxiety shows up, yeah,
Right.
that dreaded stress in our lives, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And if you'd like to know more about George and healing trauma, then please go to our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Welcome back. And next we have Leah Istati, who's an artist and energy healer. And she's here today to talk to us about creativity. So what is it about creativity that's brought you here today to share, Leah?
Thank you, Linda. I'd love to talk about that. Well, I've encountered in my life and surroundings people who seem to be a little bit lost. They seem to be in a state of desperation at times, sometimes happy, but since we're human, it's not always possible to stay in a positive state. So I've been thinking a lot about that recently, and as much as we have mindful meditation, which is clearing the mind, there are other forms of not obvious meditative states that can assist us to be in the present moment. And so that might be things like singing, drawing, doodling, walking in the park, perhaps gardening for some. But more importantly, it also gives people a state of mind, instead of thinking of past occurrences, that might keep them in the past, might keep them sad, might keep them in a place that's not conducive to the present moment. It takes them out of that place. And also, if we argue, well, we start worrying about the future, which everyone does, I do. But then I pick myself up and say, stop that. And thinking about the future is counterproductive, because we can't do anything about it.
No, it makes us more anxious,
Makes us
doesn't
more
it?
anxious.
Yes.
So what's the point? So I think it's important for people to know to do mindful pursuits to keep themselves present, because in the present is the only time we have. It's the only thing we seemingly can control. It's the only time that we can be spontaneously happy. And so things like that might be, you pick up a book, or a sketchbook rather, or even some people use written books, and when they're done with them, instead of throwing them out, they might doodle in them.
It's a great way to be environmentally friendly, isn't it?
It is. You're recycling. Or you buy just a cheap sketch pad from anywhere and you start doodling. Or you might ask someone to make a scribble. And so with that scribble, you might indulge in, what will I do with it? Will I colour it in? Will I finish it? Will I add extra lines? And another thing you can do with regards to allowing the brain to switch and have peace is you might use the hand you don't normally use to start drawing. It's very difficult. You might think, oh no, how can I do that? But it's actually easy once you try it. The point is this. whatever you do, and I'll go into more in a moment, never ever do it in a state of ego. Never do it in a state of, my goodness, that's terrible. Don't show anybody. If anyone's ever read The Artist's Way, that book talks about doing creative pursuits, but then not having an opinion. Don't show anyone. Don't even look at it yourself. So put it away and leave it. Because as soon as your ego gets involved, as soon as your ego says, oh, that's terrible, that's horrible, what did I do? It just kills the entire process. The process is the process. There's no ego, there's no judgment involved at all. So,
Well, that's just all very amazing. There's so much information you
it
have
is,
to
and
share.
we're just skimming the surface here. So it's quite exciting, quite exciting.
Thank you very much for joining us
That's
today
okay.
and sharing all that wonderful information.
Thank you.
And for more information about Leah and creativity, then please go to our website, Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle. And for now, we'll say bye-bye and we'll see you next week.